first one I want to talk about that we have on the list here is that according to Islam, and you have it written about in your book, that death is worship. Can you explain to our audience how death is worship?
Absolutely. The value, the basic value of jihad, the concept of jihad encourages Muslims to sacrifice everything in life, including the life of the husband, the life of women and children, for the sake of expanding Islam. If you want to be a good Muslim, if you want to please Allah, what you do is you go and sacrifice your life in order to go to paradise, to be rewarded with a happy life there. But life on earth has no value in Islam, and in order to prove your worship to Allah, you have to go kill and get killed. So you have to kill the enemies of Allah. Allah is the only God in any kind of religion on earth. Allah, who is the God of Islam, has whole groups of people who are considered his enemies. So Islam is not just in a war with sin or with evil. It's actually in war with flesh and blood. It is in war with human beings. And these human beings really are the majority of the world, because Muslims are only 1.5 billion out of 6 billion human beings on earth. So Islam is trying to kill or convert all these enemies of Allah. So death becomes worship. So the Allah, or the God of Islam, is eager to kill and have his people, his followers, his worshippers, kill as worship.
Okay.
And that's totally different.
Obviously, that's a stark contrast to what we find in the Bible about life being sacred. And according to Genesis 1:26, that God said, "Let us make man in our image." And because people are made in the image of God, we all have intrinsic value. So just as you and I have value, babies have value, and everyone out there who is lost following a man-made religion, such as Muslims, they have value too. So Nonie and I would both tell the Christians out there, hey, just because someone's a Muslim doesn't give you the right to all of a sudden hate them and not care about them, because they are human beings made in the image of God. Their life is sacred, just like yours and mine, and it should be our heart that they would be reconciled to God, the true God, who they don't have an understanding of. But Nonie, that leads us into how we see other people, though, too, because you say that all people are sinners, or they are all sinners, is the way you put it. How can you explain that to our audience about they are all sinners?
Yeah, the first time I ever went to a church, I was stunned with the simple sentence by the preacher saying we're all sinners, because I was not used to this kind of language. Muslims do not view themselves as equal sinners as the rest of the world. In Islam, they are sinners. We are Muslims. And in fact, Muhammad commanded Muslims to conceal their sin. There are many hadiths in which Muhammad did directly command Muslims to conceal their sin. Not only are Muslims supposed to conceal their sin, but Muslim leaders, including Muhammad himself, are considered under Islamic theology immune from sin. And that is totally different from the way we look at Jesus, who never committed sin on this earth. So Muhammad killed. He stole property of the people whom he killed. He raped women that he captured in war. He enslaved people. He stoned women. He committed every sin you can ever imagine. But because he even married an underage girl, how can you marry a 6-year-old girl? So with all of this, Muhammad could not hide or conceal his sin. So what he did, Islamic theology have given him a privilege, and it's called immunity from sin. And this is a theory in Islam. And I wrote about it in my first chapter in my book. And I have a whole chapter about sin and how Muslims view sin and how Christians view sin. It's totally different. Christians have no problem in accepting their sin, for asking for forgiveness, admitting their sin, and then being free of their sin. But Muslims, on the other hand, cannot even admit their sin.
Definitely.
Or the sin of their prophet. They can't. And they have given themselves the right to conceal their sin, while at the same time crucifying Jews and Christians for admitting their sin. So this is a major difference between the two religions.
And also, not only that, about how they see themselves and say, oh no, you're all sinners. Not only do they not correctly understand that all of us are sinners, but also too that we are born with a sin nature, which they deny as well. They think, oh no, you're born, you have a clean slate, you're naturally a pure monotheist from birth, and you're Muslim from birth. And all of a sudden, when you like today, if you are not a Muslim or if you're a Jew or Christian or whatever, then technically you're an apostate theologically. An apostate isn't necessarily someone who says, oh yeah, I'm a Muslim, and all of a sudden they decide to leave. Well, no, theologically, you are an apostate if you're not a Muslim right now. So there's an issue of that, but there's also issue that we are all sinners. I mean, Muslim friends, if you have children or grandchildren, ask yourself this question. Have you ever had to teach your child how to lie, how to steal, how to talk back to you? No, we have a sin nature. Romans 3 verse 23 says, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. It says in Romans 5 that as sin entered the world through one man and death through sin, death spread to all men because all have sinned. So we aren't sinners because we sin because we're sinners. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. So Christians, Muslims,
Islam
everyone,
actually does not talk much about the original sin. And you're right, Islam has no concept that all men are created equal and equally sinful nature. Islam does not talk about that. If you go to a mosque, all they talk about is the sin of non-Muslims, the kafir. That's all they talk about. So they've put themselves, Muslims have put themselves in such a corner because they have wrapped themselves with this kind of honor and never sinned. They don't admit the sin of their own prophet, who killed with his own hands. So they are in a real corner here. They cannot explain it. And the only way they can explain it is by violence.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important too, because Muslims and Christians, there's no doubt, Muslims and Christians all say Jesus was sinless. But that's not the case when we look at the life of Muhammad, because we see that he had broken commandments, and that's what I want to get to next. You say in your book that Islam has violated all 10 commandments. Can you explain how you know that that is the case?
This is something I discovered as I was researching my book. I looked at the 10 commandments, all of them, even the adultery part, which is Islam is so proud that they condemn adulterers. But look what they have, the black stone in the Kaaba. They kiss it. They worship it, and it existed as an idol. That black stone existed prior to Islam in the Kaaba as an idol. And so Islam has violated all the 10 commandments. Kill, don't kill. Islam commands Muslims to kill non-Muslims, to die, to kill and get killed. Don't steal. Islam commands Muslims to steal the property of the people they conquer. Until today, Muslims, when they go and conquer a nation, they take their property. Even when when Iraq went into Kuwait, they stole everything, everything, even the banks, the gold in the banks, everything, and they have no regrets about it. So they covet. They also covet. They covet the property of their neighbor. Islam does not feel bad about coveting the property of non-Muslims. In fact, they are proud of it.
Nonie, is that because
and they want to take their women
this...
too, and children. So Islam, in that sense, violated everything that is dear to the hearts of Christians and Jews. Their 10 commandments.
Yeah, and friends, if you don't know what we're talking about when we say the 10 commandments, Nonie had named some of them there, but first one being, I'm the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me. The second one, you shall not make for yourself a graven image. Now that can be like a physical, object, an idol that you worship. But here's the thing that I always try to get across to Muslims is that when you think to yourself, I think Allah is this way. I think this is what Allah requires of me. I think this is how I get into paradise. I think this is how I avoid hell. Inshallah, you'll say. That's an idol, because if your understanding of what God is like is different than what the Bible says about him, what the Injil says about him, what Jesus said about his Father, then you are worshiping an idol. It's not just a physical object, it's something in your mind. But the third commandment, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. The fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder, which Nonie mentioned. The seventh commandment, you shall not commit adultery. But Jesus said, whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So according to Jesus, if you've looked with lust, you've broken the seventh commandment. And Nonie mentioned you shall not steal, you shall not lie is number 9, and you shall not covet being number 10. And that is when we desire anything that belongs to anyone else and not being appreciative of what God has already provided for us. So we have to take a break just really quick. But Nonie, please, we're so thankful for you being on with us, and friends around the world who are watching this show. We will be back in just a couple of minutes with more great information from Nonie's new book, Wholly Different. Actually, in the next couple of minutes, go to Amazon.com, type in Nonie Darwish or type in Wholly Different, and you will actually be able to pre-order her book. That is, if I saw it correctly, Nonie, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's supposed to come out February 21st?
Correct, and it's Wholly Different, WHOLLY, holy,
So,
which means
so we're talking
totally different.
So holy as in its entirety. There will be holy things in there, Holy, and when she's talking about Christianity, but there will be unholy things when she talks about Islam. So holy, different, look it up, pre-order it, because usually as people start ordering that actually brings the price down for other people as well. And we do want to get Nonie's book out there. I know you can buy the audio version of it as well. But again, go to Amazon or any other bookseller, look it up, and buy this. And again, get her other 3 books, because those have completely other different areas of interest for you. And also, too, Cruel and Unusual Punishment, the terrifying global implications of Islamic law. People talk about, well, what would happen if the entire world was under Sharia or if the United States was under Sharia? You will find out about that, at least through this book, when you buy that book, Cruel and Unusual Punishment. So please stay right where you are. Go pre-order Nonie's book, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.